Sometimes you can pick these up at an older train store that has a lot of stock still left, and sometimes you can find them at the train shows. But as you can see, they have the incandescent bulb. They're rated for 14 volts, 30 milliamps, AC or DC. So we're going to take one of these apart and get the bulb out of it, and I'll show you the lights, LEDs that I use from Evans Design. They make a pretty neat little already on a harness, wiring harness, chip LED, and you can get them with 14-inch leads, which works good for this long pole here. So this is one of those street lights we were talking about. It's an older style and has the wires going down that you would drill a hole and put through the train board. And I don't know if you can see it real well but here, but there's a bulb right there. And we'll just show you that it has a nice warm glow with a 9-volt battery. So obviously it'd be a lot brighter with a 12 volt. But, this bulb is really rated for like 18 volts AC DC, so it doesn't have a lot of brightness to it. Now this particular one is made out of all brass, so it's fairly easy to get this apart to work on it. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this bulb. So we're just going to try to work the bulb back and forth. Sometimes it's nice to have an arsenal of tools, either duck nose pliers, angled pliers, and a pair of tweezers. You don't want to break the glass in your fingers because that could be painful. So we're just going to try to work this bulb out. Don't fret too much if it doesn't come out. We could take this apart depending on who made the unit. And you can rock this back and forth a little bit like I'm doing here. And that'll eventually come out. And there we go. Now, don't worry too much about the wire, because what we're going to do is we're going to send the new wire down through there from the LED, which is magnet wire, and it's a lot easier to get out. So we're just trying to get that wire out of the tube. And then we're going to, now that we have this loose, they usually put some glue or something like that in here. Usually put some glue or something like that to kind of hold the bulb in place, and you just have to work it loose. Eventually you'll get it, and there we go. Now what I usually do, you can do this too, or you don't have to, but I have different kinds of paint. I usually paint the bell of this with some brass colored metallic, and that helps it reflect a little bit. So this is a good weekend thing. You take the bulb out, do your painting, let it dry, and you can pick up on the next day or later that day to work on that part. Okay, what I'm doing now is I've gotten my brass metallic paint. Even though it says metallic, it still will be a slight insulator because of the enamel. So we're basically going to take and work on the inside of this. We're just going to rotate that. We just want to make this more like a reflector to help get that LED light out. And if you're good, you can put a little rib on there, make it look like it was edged type thing. So we'll set that aside and let that dry, and we'll clean our brush. So we've put a second coat of paint on the bell, and that dried, and then I inserted the LED with the wire through the hole in the bell. And last night I applied a little bit of white glue, which I don't think you're going to be able to see because now it's clear, in the base of the thing to hold the LED in place. And then I went ahead and bent the wire so the LED's in the proper position. Next we're going to take our pipe, which is the top part of the lamp, and we're going to feed these wires through. to get them both started together. I just keep sliding them. Eventually they'll come off the top. This is probably the hardest part where the bend is. Okay, now we have them coming out of here. We just slide this like that. Now we're going to bring the rest of the bell in, and we'll work this piece back into the bell. Try not to short the wires. You have that side of it. And we take the base, do the same thing with the wires on that. This is a little trickier because of the bottom where the collar is. And now once we have everything together, we'll slide that in. There you go. Your light is ready to mount on the train board. Again, we'll want to test the bulb after, or not the bulb, but the LED after we get the light assembled. And now I'll show you how I go ahead and put a resistor in the connector. So remember we talked about this would go through the train board, but now you have to have a resistor in there. So I use these blocks from Woodland Scenics. They're easy to use, you don't need any soldering. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to put your wire into this slot when you push the button down. Release the button, just give it a little tug, make sure it's good. That one I didn't get right, I pressed down enough. There you go. So now you have an easy connection on this end. And like I said, if you're going to probably use a 1K is good enough. You can go down as low as 680 ohms for some LEDs, but they may not last as long. These are fairly bright enough for when you're using a 1K. If you don't know how to solder, so that you can make up a connector like this one, so this has the resistor with heat shrink tubing on the wire, you could go ahead and put this directly in here. You want to always put the resistor on the negative side. That seems to be the industry standard now. And the other end, we're going to use our terminal strips. You can get these at Lowe's, Home Depot, any electrical store. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this one in here, like so. Nice to have an arsenal of tools. Okay, and then here we're just going to take some piece of scrap wire, which I'll go grab a piece right now. It's always nice to have scrap wire laying around, so we'll just cut this piece here. Speaking of wire, this stuff doesn't require a lot of amperage, so you can either use 22 gauge, 24 gauge, whatever you can get your hands on. You can use cat cable, which you can buy at Lowe's, Home Depot, Staples. You can also use old telephone wire. So if you have access to that, somebody you know can get that for you, you can use that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a jumper up for this. So I can use my alligator clips in the battery to show you how this works with the 12 volts. Okay, hang on a second, we'll get that. Okay, so I've hooked my little jumpers here up, and this is my battery that I use for testing, 12 volt battery. You can do however you want to do the testing. But this simulates my power supply. So there's our light. And let's see if we can give you a better indication of what kind of light it'll shine. So there's your light, and you can see that it has a pretty decent light that shines down. Good pattern.